host, Chad Everett Bros Shears, and today it's a no hat day. So let's see how crazy this stuff gets. All right, so something came to mind today as I'm trying to do this in reverse here. There we go. All right. It's the mirror effect. Look at this. Gotta make sure it's good for the audience, right? I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. So I was speaking with some friends, and one of them brought up this statement about Michael Jordan. I'm like, okay. And listening to the conversation in its context, this conversation was about, he was one of the greats. And immediately it struck me. The majority of the time I've ever heard anyone bring up Michael Jordan was their focal point on his goals, on the outcome. I'm sorry, the focal point was on the outcome. It was like what he accomplished. If you ever listen to him on how to be successful, and he talks about different methods or whatever, he always talks about the work ethic. What should you focus on? Work, work, work. When other people don't want to work, get to work. Now, Will Smith said it too. There's a portion where Will Smith said, if you and I get on a treadmill, one thing is certain. You will get off first. He will die in order to beat you on a treadmill. And he's willing to go all the way in order to win. Same thing with Michael Jordan. But you see, the thing is that far too often we get so blinded by the result. We get so caught up in this is going to be great when I have $1 million. It's going to be great whenever I have whatever the asset is, right? Whatever that thing is. I can't wait until I have X amount in the bank, or I've got, the big boat, or whatever the heck it is that they're focused on. I can't wait till I have that much clout, I'm a celebrity, or whatever. And people get so bought into the results, the outcome, that they don't put themselves to work in the process. Oh, and through my career successes, it's not a sexy thing. It's not something that just leaves you going, wow, that makes so much sense. And, oh, you're just so brilliant or smart or whatever. No, mine was laborious effort. Oh, specifically since I've worked in the fitness industry for so long, and I've worked in the management and restructuring and building locations back up and making them, beyond profitable, making them to be industry value leading. It's not like I've got some sort of special sauce. If anything, the special sauce is getting to work. Oh, when I was on a salary based versus an hourly based, I would go in and I was paid for 40 hours. It didn't matter how many hours I worked. It was 40 hours. I'd go in and I'd spend 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then on the 7th day, I'd go in for 8 hours, where other people are doing 5. You want to come over and say hi? Is that what you did? Huh? So you doing? Oh, you're going to pop your head up? Oh, look at who it is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you like the idea of work too, don't you? Oh, you do. You love running. So I'd put the work in. So people are like, well, Chad, what are you doing? Why is it that you can do this or get so many results? Or, how can you drive the numbers that you're doing? Or how can you retain the clients that you're retaining? Or how do you develop your trainers the way that you're developing them? It's like, what's the secret? And they're looking for as if it's a key that's missing. It's just one little piece, and then all of the sudden everything just works. And as I told them, when I came to working in the gym industry, so when I went to corporate gym, first I started off, to give just a little bit of background on this, I started off in a physical therapy office as a 1099 employee working for a company that had, its entire intention was to do corrective exercise specialties. Oh, hence the benefit of them being in a physical therapy office is it's the stage that would follow physical therapy. Instead of people just jumping back into their workouts and then potentially hurting themselves with the limitations or the lack of preparation for their body for wherever they had to deal with whatever they had to do to recover from. like what they went to physical therapy for. This isn't really a sales spiel to get people to, hire my company as, corrective exercise specialist or something. It's not that. But to give you an idea, I went, and that's where I worked initially. When I got there, I became obsessed with learning everything that I could, because up until that point, I didn't look at exercise being corrective in nature or some sort of depth of, like, I had an idea that there was that, but I was more focused on the aesthetic values, because that's what the popularity was around, was looking good, bodybuilding physiques, having the immaculate body, going out to the beaches or wherever, taking my shirt off and people falling to their knees, like that whole 20-something-year-old mindset that comes with bodybuilding. It's interesting. And now that I'm not 20 anymore, I kind of look back and like, wow, Chad, you were really into it. That was up to what I thought to that point. But I became obsessed with the information. I was introduced. My first mentor was the person that owned the company. My second mentor, the second mentor was a man named Paul Chek. Now, he's a holistic health practitioner. He's out of San Diego, California. He's actually world-renowned, but he's world-renowned in our circles, which is the corrective exercise areas and the developmentally sound exercise genre, not the aesthetically charged area, because that's most of those people just want quick results. They don't really care about long-term performance as much. Not taking anything away from that group. That's a major divide element inside of the backgrounds in the industry itself. So I went more the therapeutic route, and I found it so incredibly fascinating how, there's all kinds of things from organ stress or distress to reducing power output in the muscular system during certain exercises, if the organ itself is under a certain amount of distress or if it's inflamed or certain things like that. And I'm like, how the hell is that involved? How is that possible? I didn't think of it that way. And then as soon as I was introduced to it, I'm like, oh, wow. But you see, my curiosity was the work, and it was taking everything I had from me, in the sense of my desire was before the idea that I was working hard. Now, if I was told that I had to read the stuff that I had to read and go to the lectures that I had to go to and do all the studying that I had overall, both not just in books but also in person with certain doctors and things, I probably would have looked at it like work and been more focused on the long-term outcome, which would be, I'm going to be really good in this area. It was more of, I let fascination and the curiosity of it be a representation inside of the work. So it was less stressful. It was less draining. I'd go to sleep and I'd have to calm my mind because I was so interested in learning more. So I worked in that area, and that's where I started really developing the technician side of me. So from that, I moved into my own business, and for anybody who's a business owner, your report card is your success. And your report card has multiple different areas that actually give you success values. You could have one client do an amazing job, but if you don't have a marketing arm or the networking elements that would be part of the concept of marketing, you could very well fall off, because that one client at some point in time might need to leave you for whatever reason. Either you've reached the initial goal and didn't know how to plant, more opportunities in that person's future as far as like physical opportunities or things, or they may move away. They could just end up not being able to find it budget affordable because of some sort of life change. There's all kinds of stuff. Well, if you don't know how to run the business, your report card will tell you, because you don't see a lot of growth or you don't see the return on effort. And what I did whenever I went through my own stressful phases while I was a self-provider running my own company, which I just did what I was doing for Eric, I changed it a bit to what I wanted to see it be versus the shroud of the company that I was working for originally in the physical therapy office, which is owned by the company at that place was owned by Eric. The physical therapist was Dr. Andy. As far as just for reference points, it's nothing else other than giving some names and values. I wanted to make the business my own, and I saw more incentive of doing that because I could actually develop more. There's more to it, but overall, that's a really good motivator for me to move into running my own business. And the report card was there. And what I did is I focused significantly in the portion of the technician, and I looked at the long-term goal concept, which was I'm going to make an impactful, sustainable, financially empowering type of business, and I used all of the initial training pieces that I became obsessed with, and I continued that, but it didn't transition into the other areas that I needed it to. So I had I'm getting really good at this, and I was really running out of people that were able to teach me on a local level the advanced stuff that I was learning. I was becoming more of a teacher in that, and I wanted more. I knew I wasn't really that level. I just needed more influencers in my life to help me learn more, better, more people that knew how to play chess at a higher advanced level than I did is what I was seeking out. So I spent a lot more time like trying to dig deeper into the books to learn more, because I felt that the value would be seen in me, that would be the knowledge and the ability to be an amazing technician. But I did not breach, or I didn't go outside of that particular thinking model, aside from goals out there and I'm going to make myself highly successful. And I focused on the idea that I would be more like my second mentor, which again was Paul Chek. I made him a goal of his lifestyle, what he was doing, the traveling around the world, the educating people in large masses, that kind of thing. And I was really fired up for it, but I wasn't looking at the work he did to get there, because I felt like the work he did was satisfied by my curiosity that I was digging into the books, becoming the technician, but I wasn't learning the other pieces of work that was necessary. The direction for marketing, the direction for business management, the location acquisitions, and/or facilitating the business in other locations, like getting rent, things like that. There was all kinds of things that I wasn't aware that I needed to do. So I doubled down on the hard work on the bottom end, if you will. And I focused heavily on the higher end, which was the mark that I wanted to be at. Not a celebrity necessarily, a celebrity in our world, but not necessarily like the other concepts of a celebrity. It was more of all of the functional elements that I was aware that he was doing. But I didn't have the staff that he had and or has. And I, at the time, I had to facilitate those things, but I wasn't focusing on it. My work didn't evolve. I didn't continue to focus on the work. I thought I had it because I had a low-level area of the work on my plane of awareness. And again, it's not like low-level becoming a technician is a low-level thing. It's like a cocoon from the caterpillar to butterfly. You have to go through transitional phases. And I wasn't making those phase changes. So the work was justified. I worked hard. I read a lot. I finished, X books, whatever it was. I wrote whatever programs, whatever it was that I needed to do. I wrote some articles. I developed my own nutrition portion, or nutrition weight loss program. I did a lot of stuff like that. But I didn't study the other pieces of work, because I thought I was good down here at this end. And I was focused on this end, which is almost out of the screen. That's the Paul Chek area. And I was back here. I wasn't thinking about all of the work required moving forward. So when I say focus on the work, it's focus on the work and its natural transitions. What should it do after a certain amount of time? But you have to have the insight, and you have to look for the cues. I didn't have the insight that I have now. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but I wasn't focusing on the work overall. I thought the work was taken care of by that low-end stuff that I was repetitively doing, and I was repetitiously doing is another way of putting it. And then I would think that, Paul Chek, that's the way I'm going to be. I'm going to be that. I'm going that route. Travel around the world. But all the other stuff in the middle, where I really needed to focus the work, would be diluted by the goal. It's good to know the goal. Fantastic. It's something to put on the wall or wherever your target is, but it's not something to obsess over necessarily. Obsessing over the work has made a lot more progress for me. So from there, I ran my own business for several years. It's actually more than 5 years. And eventually I had to close the doors because I didn't have enough revenue coming in, because I wasn't growing in the other areas I needed to. And then I came to the conclusion of three main options when it comes to learning. You can either pay for schooling to get through it, which is, it's an option. I didn't really have the finances to do that, nor did I have the structural freedom to do it at the time, to go down the route that I wanted to. I didn't have the absolute clarity about it. So there's that is one of them. You can go to school for it. The other is you can this going to school for it also includes mentorship, like getting a private mentor or tutor or something like that. Falls in the education being taught by somebody else. Then there's the education that you're learning through reading, still taught by somebody else, but it has a different concept. It's usually a lot cheaper to do. It's just narrowing it down so you know what book to get it out of, or what course to take. That would be kind of outside of the school concept, but yet courses can still be over there. I like putting it in the book category because it gives more volume to the book category of learning. So mentorship or schools, books that you learn on your own or do programs on your own, but could be relatively inexpensive. And then there's always to take the job in an industry that it requires you get good at what you're not good at, which is you go back to school, but you go back to school by work. And if you keep your job is one of your grades on your report card, you go into it. I really am looking forward to being successful in this, but I also didn't have a way of measuring it aside from not being successful, but not having ever experienced it, what the success model really was. It was hard to gauge if I was doing something that was successful versus something that was just filling time or something that was setting me back. It was hard to gauge it. So as soon as I took a job in a fitness industry working the commercial side of things or the larger facility gym side of things, that's when I realized the things that I wasn't good at started to show up. Some of the things that I was reluctant to do or just didn't know to do or didn't think it was as important to do became more of this is how you're going to be successful in this company. It took 1 month after I finished with a good friend of mine, and I mentioned him in another video before, which is, his name is Rade. It's RJ. When he watches videos, he gets a kick out of them. But I trained with him for a bit, and then I was turned loose to work on my own and running my own club as the fitness director for it. That's where I had to actually earn my own grades. So if the facility was going to hold me, keep me there, and make a big difference by me being there, then that was at the end of the month, every month, I got my report card. Did the revenues change? Are my trainers happier or less happy? They would send out surveys to get all kinds of information or data from us. They did all kinds of things to find out, but ultimately at the end of the day, it was, what my paycheck looked like, because a lot of it was more commission driven. It was retentions, how long our clients stayed with us. I'm not and have never been into the industry or the idea that I needed to disable my clients in order to get them to stick around by doing things intentionally to keep them from thinking they could do it on their own. Mine was more of, you can do this on your own, but there's going to be other things in the future that are going to come up. It's great to have a partner in that process. And it did change the dynamic a bit, where other people are like, oh, well, they would point out the things they can't do on their own to try to save them from leaving. I was the other side. It's like, you've done great here. And you really, I'm proud of you for what you've accomplished. Future goals, things like that, and getting them to continue to stay invested in their fitness goals versus short term, I look good and then they kind of try it on their own for a bit. So I was better also, that's the retention piece. And I saw that number go up as well because I started, thanks babe. Athena's giving me the bell. So as far as that portion of the job went, I was constantly getting my checkpoints of how good I was doing. My trainers, how engaged they would be during the meetings. If they did the process changes that we needed them to do. You okay? Huh? All right. Dog father first, right? Anyway. Do you need to go outside? Give me a moment. Come on, baby. There you go. Okay. So I used the job as a way of getting feedback on how well I was doing as an individual, as with the job overall, as well as my skill sets that I was developing. I'm like, if I really didn't want to go to work for somebody else after running my own business, but I also realized that I wasn't in a position to afford going back to school. And again, with the structural abilities. Well, thank you, Miss Wolf. Yes, I realized that I needed to learn as much as I possibly could. And I took a job and I kind of bit my own pride, if you will. I pushed it back a little bit so that I could get back into school in a way that wasn't in school. Like, so the job became the school. I had already been reading quite a bit and taking courses, but I wasn't getting the information that I needed. So as soon as I switched over for corporate America, after biting, like eating up my pride on that, and just saying, you know what, just live with it. You can do this. It took a couple of days to kind of readjust to working for somebody else again. And then from there, it was the first month I was competing with number one in the company. I passed him for a little bit, and then he ended up passing me at the end of the month. But that was just raw numbers. He pushed a lot. The second month, him and I again competing, and we were top two in the company by a landslide. By the first half of the month, to give you an idea about how humbled I was about taking this approach, is I was in my office, and I had my head down. I was looking at the computer, and then my phone rings. And I realized that it was my boss at the time. And as soon as I answered the phone, I'm like, hey, what's up, Derek? And he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like right in the middle of leaving a note from the last phone call that I made. And I was like, oh, I'm just leaving a note, confirming appointments, reaching out to some of the new members. And he's like, no, Chad, I need you to tell me what you're doing. I'm sitting in my office. It was, you're number one in the company right now. I'm like, what? I just got my head down. I'm doing my job. I wasn't focused on being number one. I was focused on doing the work. So, and what happened with that was, boom, immediately. I was up there, and I was just completely taken back on it, because I'm like, what? It's like halfway into the month, and it's my first month. And like I said, at the end of that month, that gentleman, his name's Chris, he did end up overtaking my production value, but he had also been seasoned in the industry for more than 10 years, specifically working in the gyms, the general fitness facility type gyms. I was brand new to it. So, and then the next month, again, the same thing. I ended up being moved from that location, promoted to another location in northern Florida, Tallahassee. And when I got there, I did the exact same thing. And there was a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot of work, but the focus is on the culture. But there's something to be said about that. Culture requires that you focus on the work. You don't just sit there and be like, oh, it's going to be a great culture. It's going to be a great culture. You work on it. You put your head down. You focus on those areas, and that will promote you or move you towards your goal. And you can be looked at you can be in that position of the Michael Jordan because you're focused on the work versus sitting back going, why isn't it my turn? Waiting for some sort of lottery rotation for you to finally win your place in life. No, make your place in life. And that's what I was doing. So it turns out, and still to this day, the club that I had in Tallahassee, it's still the number one club in the company. There's a culture value to it. There's other elements to it at this point since I've been away from it for a while. But the culture is a heavy piece. The current person that's involved in that location, he's also very culture driven, very, very, very good at what he does. But it was something that it went from being, we're not certain we're going to be able to keep the club open, to now it's a top thing. But it's because I focused on work instead of focusing on, oh, it's going to be great. It is good to understand what great looks like, but there's also work on it, make it happen. So as far as that goes, that's more or less, I've kind of gotten winded in the idea of what it's like to actually focus on the work versus just the goal. The goals are good. It's good to have them. It's good to know that they're out there, but then put your work in at the fundamental places, which is what you need to do right now. What's your next step? It's everyone wants to buy into the cliches. What is that? The path of 1,000 miles is within the steps. You hear it, you say it, but you don't necessarily mean it, or you don't do it. We say, okay, well, it's the end result. It's being at the top of Mount Everest versus all of the things necessary to get there. It's like, I don't get there, and you just kind of have faith in it. But faith and work get you where you want to be. So that pretty much covers it for today in this episode. But I wanted to do something that would at least, if nothing else, give us something to focus on that will make progress. It's good to know where your goals are. Stop and periodically give yourself the milestones. Look back, see what you've accomplished. Enjoy the fact you've accomplished it, and get back to work. A side note, by the way, all of the stuff that I did whenever it came to working for the company or the fitness company that I worked for, that was all done without being an arrogant jerk. I did not at any point in time dismiss anybody in the process. I took responsibility where other people did it, where other people weren't putting the effort in. Glad to see that, Miss Wolf. Got to get to work. But I just, people would call and I'd make time to talk to them about what I was doing. But I realized that the majority of people were looking for that secret ingredient, the spice or the whatever was putting into the recipe that made me different. And the difference was I was just working my butt off. I was listening to people with sincerity. I did everything I could to make people's lives better. And that was on every element. I managed up, I managed down, I managed side to side, lateral management as well for people at different clubs that were interested in figuring out how to make it a better thing, how to get where I was at. Is when I first got that location in particular, there was no, well, it's because of the location, you're good. No, that club was not in a good spot. Same thing whenever I got moved up to multi-club manager. Exact same situation. I did the same for that as I did the other things because I learned it in the beginning. I made an obsession on the work more so than I'm just going to be good at this or I just have to be better than this other person. I didn't take that mindset of like I have to be better than I was yesterday. I have to be better than I am today, tomorrow. Oh, I need to continue to learn. 1% every day will make a change. And that's exactly what it did. I did the exact same thing in a multi-club manager level. Culture is my focus, but it also is a daily work thing. It's not the work grind and just to try to make it seem like some miserable thing where you have to pay your dues. I actually enjoy it. It's not miserable to me. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's not miserable. So, all right, with that, let's get to work and find a way of getting some joy infused in it so we can really appreciate it so that we're not trying to wait for that sweet, sweet victory at the end. We can appreciate the sweet, sweet victories now and continue to move on. Appreciate the work you're doing. I'll also finish with a quote here again. I'm not going to quote Jordan Peterson every single time, but bear a cross worthy of carrying, and you'll find your life has value. So find a burden that is worthy of your life's efforts, and you'll find a great deal of reward from bearing that burden. I enjoy it. We exercise for those reasons. I do more than just exercise to have the desirable outcome. Let's focus on this stuff now. We're all on the journey. I'm not at the end of my goal yet, but I am sharing that in the process as we go through these episodes. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for my visitors and my viewers here and the messages. I greatly appreciate all of you. And with that, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, comment, and let's we're all in this together, so let's have fun with it. Really, it's throw your comments in there so I know where you're at as far as the fun goes, and then we'll go from there. Let's go ahead and let's get to it. All right. With that, thank you, Miss Wolf. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Do share this video with anybody and everybody, or that person in your life that you know can benefit from it. I have another friend of mine that shared that she did share that with her sister. I mean, the feedback was they actually liked Athena a little bit more, but that's okay. I still appreciate it no matter what. All right, guys. Guys and girls, enjoy the rest of your day. Until the next episode, we're in this together. Let's think critically through it all, and let's dig. Let's get to work. So, all right. Enjoy. Bye-bye.